And then story of the week, Greg finally.
And he qualifies. That's so cool.
Well, I mean, he had to. So speaking of pressure, needing pressure, Greg needs the pressure. I mean, that's a lot. I wonder if you could actually figure out like levels of pressure. Like you have to qualify. You don't want to crash. Like that's going to suck going out your last race crashing. Yes, it's not fairy tale and he's not on the podium.
We'll talk about Matt Walker.
Yeah, horrendous conditions. We must speak about Matt Walker. So Greg had a lot of pressure on his shoulders to have some sort of fairy tale ending, because if he came down visor off, covered in mud, I mean that's a bit of an anticlimax for your.
Well, I mean, if he didn't even qualify, he wouldn't have been riding on Sunday,
which is proper challenging these days. You got to do it twice.
Yeah,
in the current format, you had to do it twice.
Yeah, and if you're not protected, it's anyway. Yeah, he was there and he did his last run with us. Man, like I think he podiumed at half the races he entered. Like over 80 podiums.
51.49%. I took 167 races because he had 171 results, but he didn't start 4 of them.
Yeah.
So someone might have this even more accurate.
No, I think it was 166 starts. Yeah. This race 167. Yeah.
Yeah, 167 starts, 86 podiums. I have it. If this
did he have 22 or 23 wins? 23 wins. 22. I almost think that he's custom
3 World Cup overalls and 4 world champs. That is a 51% strike rate on podiums. And if he didn't go so long, the podium strike rate was in the 60s at a point until he started stretching the career and all these youngsters started coming up. That's pretty damn impressive to know, like 50 to 60% of the time you're going to be on the podium. It's every second race. You're like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be so worried. I'm going to be on the podium anyway.
Yes, I have to check something.
What?
Because you said 22 wins, right?
But I haven't. No. After Leger, I do think it's 22. That's what all the stats on the screen said. Although they did misspell his name in the finish area on the screen. Did you see that? That's not ideal. That's not ideal. I got 22 wins, 3 World Cup titles, 4 Worlds, 167 starts, and the 86 podiums. There are people like Martin Whiteley, which, if he does listen, can correct us, because he has these all way better than I have. But I did do my homework here to try to justice to Craig's incredible career. I give him a lot of shit these days because I'm old now and he's old and I don't race anymore.
Oh, but you know what?
I've got to give credit. I mean, he motivated me more than anyone to get out there. I mean, he's one of the biggest reasons for me having a career is because you could see someone like that from South Africa make it on the world stage, so you need these people to come before you. What stat are you trying to look up?
Hey, the custom bike they had made for him says 23 wins on it, so let's just pretend it's 23.
But I mean, do you think they got that wrong?
Well, one of us, either we got it wrong or they got it wrong. We'll have to ask Greg, and he might not remember.
I'll go through the results. Anyway. Okay. It's a hell of a lot. And
the best thing about Greg, the adaptability, and he's gone through 3 decades. I mean, he's won world champs in 3 different decades. He's battled like the Nicos, which we appreciate how great he was, but because these kids these days, they don't know how to operate a VCR because those tapes, not everything's been digitized. Like Nico was on such another level, but Greg battled and beat Nico. And in fact, he won his first overall beating Nico at Mont-Sainte-Anne. But he battled Nico, then he battled Steve Pete, then he battled G in them, then he battled Sam in them, and then he battled Gwyn, and then he battled Loic, and then he battled Loris, and like he's literally beating and battling kids half his age or kids that could be his kids. 27 years racing and been winning for like 25 of them. It's there's the the GOAT gets thrown around so often these days. you definitely, I mean, I don't think there's one person that will dispute Greg. And also, he has so many fans, and that's another thing about Mont-Saint-Anne. It was probably, I want to maybe say it was more fans than Leger.
It looked packed, especially like middle of the track, which often isn't that packed. Like, what did they do to get the fans there?
Usually, I don't know.
Is there a screen up or something?
I don't even think there was a screen. I just think it was such a. You can actually probably see more track stood there than if you're in the finish area. And it's just that these are proper mountain bike spectators, and they've come they're like I wouldn't say mostly American, but they're like half and half of Canadian and American spectators. And this Northeast is quite very gravity orientated, and especially from the Canadian side, when you've had riders like Steve Smith, Finn, and Jackson, it's definitely made gravity a really important discipline, because there's a couple of World Cups in Europe where the cross country pulls a bigger crowd than the downhill, but that's not the case here. And the crowd been so knowledgeable, and so we're talking about Greg, with the reason I bring in the crowd. You can tell who the crowd favorites are. You just hear the volume go up. They were pretty much cheering for everybody, but obviously when a Canadian came by, it got louder. And then there's a couple of a lot of the French riders, because they're French Canadian. But then when someone like a Greg Minnaar comes by, it's just like, it's pretty obvious how much he means to so many people, and how many people were just showing up with Greg Minnaar, like memorabilia and outfits, and some guy did some big tag art up there. It's we could have 2 or 3 podcasts just on Greg Minnaar's career, and hopefully over the next couple of times he'll dip in and come visit you and tell us about the early days and the middle years. I just remember when they would drink a bottle of red wine on a Thursday night and still race and win. And these days he doesn't do it, and you can't probably do it. But there was a time, say the Bryson era, when like the syndicate, it was like they were winning and they were winning the party. It's just impressive to be able to be like that. There.
You won the bet.
What was my bet?
I said he was going to perform at Mont-Saint-Anne with the pressure in his last race, and you said no ways. He's on his victory lap. He's going to be drinking too much wine, and I did share some wine with him at the. No, I said he would perform very well, like get on the podium.
He did, he did. He
didn't get on the podium at St. Anne.
He performed well to get in the fucking final, bro.
Hey, I'm giving you credit. Like, you just love arguing that you can't even hear that I'm giving you the win on the bet. You said he won't get on the podium, though, because he's going to be on a victory tour drinking red wine. And I did have some red wine with him at the US Open. But he's so competitive. He brought up, listen to this. So he says, hey, Needles, you know that we tied at a race? I said, I literally don't even remember that. He's like, yeah, we got 7th at Wyndham one year, tied to the thousands.
So I said a couple things.
Yeah, so I said a couple things. I don't remember that. And it's super interesting.
So that would have bothered him.
It bothers him, but he also failed to remember the one where I did beat him at Wyndham when I was 3rd and he was like 11th. So I obviously found that and gave him a little jab. So I looked up the result. And he was right. We were actually 9th and we tied to the thousands, and they put 9th on both of our names. I forget who was above. I think I was above, and then I chirped. I said, I must have qualified better, so I'm above you. But the reason I bring this up is not about me. It's Greg is so competitive, whether it's like in the bar on teasing someone, or
he's like
he said to Loic, I still got you. My last race, I was still ahead of you, It's like he's always got to find something, and that's what drives him.
He beat Loic in his last race.
Yeah, so he always gets to say that to Loic, even though they both were in the 20s or whatever.
He's the king of Andorra. He beat Amaury too, technically you could say, in the last race. So there we go.
So that's where the drive comes from, and I think exactly we couldn't say enough about him. We all like to give each other a lot of shit. That's how sportsmen, that's how males bond. But I have to thank him. Like, if it wasn't for him, my career wouldn't look at the way it looked. He just showed that like it's possible to get out of a country like South Africa and go race downhill on the world stage. Like, that's such a weird concept to me, Like even to see the next generation and to see Alan Hatherley, like, yes, the late Barry Stander probably motivated him, but even Greg would have motivated these cross country riders.
For sure.
Like, hey, we can
and Candice. Yeah.
Yeah, and Candice Little, of course. Yeah. So, props to him. really cool. I don't know what. I guess he's going to be competitive with his team ownership now and do some other races. I guess I don't know what he's going to do. You know, he hasn't quite announced exactly what his role is going to look like. We can only guess. So that was really cool to see. So props to him. He does listen to these, or he listens to some podcasts. I'll send him this link because he said he's coming on to do a tell-all end of season.
Yeah, we need
I might have to fly up there and play golf with him and have a few beers and have I think he needs to loosen up and tell all. Like the sponsors he's going to talk about, he doesn't have to impress anymore, right? So fans, put it in the comments here if you want an exclusive Greg Minnaar retirement interview on this podcast. So put it in the comments. The more comments I get, the more I can show him.